Welcome to episode 9 of Play Some D with your host, as always, me, Coach D. Yeah, ninth installment here, 9 weeks in a row of Play Some D. Just want to say, for me personally, mentioned in previous videos, consistency is the key. I would like to do this every week. If I skip a week, it's probably because I'm out of touch, hopefully vacation, if I've ever missed. Last week was tough because I was out of town, but I came back and got that one in. That was episode 8. Please check that out if you have not checked that out. Please also like and subscribe if you like what you see. Turn on your post notifications to get that notification every single week when I drop a new episode. So for this week is, for people that don't know, the podcast is based on sports formatting. So majority of the time I'm talking about sports here. Majority. Well, let me not say that. Play Some D is a variety episode podcast where I talk about it could be an episode with no sports on there. So just to be fair, let me not say that. But this week you have to talk about the NCAA Final Four. I'm a basketball guy, women's and men's basketball. Shout out to the athletes that just put on a show for people for hours where we were able to escape into basketball. And yeah, it was really exciting to watch, especially after missing it last year. I think everybody appreciated it a little bit more this year, even though it wasn't many fans in the stands, but a lot of fans at home watching. I also talk about Biden's infrastructure plan. Some say it's not infrastructure, some say it's just spending. Either way, I have my thoughts on that. Talk about the top cereals. Just Play Some D is random, very random. So cereals, I've been a cereal guy since yay height or yay, whatever. Been a cereal fan since the tiny guy. I don't eat it that much anymore, but I was interested to see, I came across a bracket that kind of relates to March Madness and whatever. So that's how I got here. We will talk about that later on. And to piggyback on the NCAA, amateurism is in the Supreme Court. And they're trying to sort out if athletes get paid. So that's another topic this week. I can already say there's no OT this week. There's OT last week, though. Go watch episode 8. There was OT. Big bloated episode with OT. But yeah, once again, please like and subscribe to the video. Really appreciate it. All the support. And without further ado, let's kick off. Let's tip this baby off. Jump ball, first quarter. And it's going to be NCAA Final Four. NCAA Final Four. So ladies go first. I think that's just only fair. And I think their games were just a little more exciting. I think this year, and I usually watch, I just feel like there's always blowouts in the women's games. And it just wasn't that way this year. It wasn't blowouts. For one that knows and has caught up, Stanford did win. They did beat Arizona. And I thought that Stanford, it was the spread opened at 9.5. I actually thought they would cover that. And then it dropped at game time to 7.5. I actually took that and I lost. I thought it was going to be a blowout. I thought it was going to be a blowout from the jump. They were up like 12-3 early on, and I thought Stanford was just going to run away with it. They had beat Arizona the previous 2 games, so beating somebody 3 times, that was also in the back of my mind. but they were just, I thought they had them outmatched, but Arizona had a really good player that they believed in and had a really good coach that the players believed in. They were fighting hard. Arizona beat Connecticut, which Connecticut probably shouldn't have beat Baylor, but Baylor had an injury. So Baylor probably would have been, obviously I'm counting Arizona out again, but it should have been, I thought it was going to be Stanford and Baylor in the championship. Stanford barely beat South Carolina, so South Carolina could have definitely won. But either way, however the Cards fumbled, even with Arizona being there, had Connecticut found a way to have all those teams jumbled up, the Baylors, the Connecticut's, Arizona's, South Carolina, Stanford. I think looking back at it, it all would have wound up probably at a 1-point game, no matter how you slice it. So the women's were just so exciting. Aari McDonald, I'm super excited to see where she gets drafted. It'll be fun. I think people are starting to, especially after what the WNBA did with, helping in that Georgia election and just kind of giving themselves, I wouldn't say putting themselves on a map, but getting people's attention. Like, look what we're doing, and then we can play ball too. Like, they're doing it all. They're doing it all, and in their sport, I feel like they fight more. I feel like they want it more. Men are kind of complacent. It's all about the money now. They like to play, but it really only matters in those, those big games. Most of the teams know when the games don't matter, it doesn't matter. But for the girls, every night they go out and give it their all. Previous videos, I can't exactly remember because I'm not shameful to plug one of my old podcasts and my old episodes. I still haven't figured out how I'm calling this, but it's just episodes right now. I talk about women, the WNBA, and fixing that age rule, and they definitely have to fix that age rule. I mean, Stanford has 2 girls. I think her name was Brink. Their center, and then Haley Jones. They both could go to the WNBA, should go to the WNBA. UConn has a plethora. Arizona, Aari, makes sense. Stanford has girls that should go. Baylor have girls that should go early. And then there's other teams, Louisville. There's other Maryland. There's other teams that have, the WNBA could really capitalize off of this press they're getting from their girls. But, they run it, so they know what they're doing. But women's was superb. The draft comes up, I believe, in 10 days, so that'll be fun to watch. And I actually might even talk about it. But yeah, to carry on with it, men's Final Four, we went surprisingly, UCLA and Gonzaga was just a game for the ages. Unbelievable. I guess I'll start there. Final Four wise, didn't think they would get past Michigan, and they did. Gonzaga handled USC to get to the Final Four, and then UCLA just had a bunch of confidence. And I think it was 14. I thought Gonzaga was just going to run away with that one as well. I mean, this whole weekend, as far as gambling goes, going back at least a week, probably 10 days, I've been just awful with betting. So I'm taking a week off. I'm just clearing my head, and I'll start back fresh next week sometime with gambling. I just lost a bunch of money and then just lost a bunch of what if bets, I guess you can say. Keeping myself honest, obviously, but I just been on a terrible losing streak. So game went to overtime and ended with Jalen Suggs, who will be a probably top 2 pick, hitting the shot. And a lot of people would talk about, it ending like that, but double overtime could have been way less, could have been way more, what's the word, anticlimactic. I mean, UCLA could have took off on them. Gonzaga could have took off on them. Somebody could have fouled out. unfortunate things could have happened. The game just dribbled out into a victory. An exciting last second shot for that game is interesting because Kenny Smith called it. He said whoever had the ball last would win. And that's exactly what happened. Gonzaga got it, pushed it with 3 seconds, and he banked it. It wasn't a lucky shot. I mean, he pulled up, look at the form, he squared up, saw the rim, saw the glass, aimed it, shot it, boom. And that's the shot. You know, we basketball players, everybody, you practice that shot. It's not luck. That's fun stuff in the backyard. You've done it. When they say thousands of times, you've really done it thousands of times. It's just what basketball players do. All levels, all the way up. You know, it's a part of playing basketball. So that game was excellent. And UCLA and USC, happy for both of those programs for building back up and kids. You know, transfer portal was big, and we'll see how that all plays out. But UCLA and USC will have recruits wanting to come and play for them. And UCLA, they fought. They didn't. I mean, they have top talent, but you didn't expect it to spill over like it did. And those guys believed in each other. They got hot and they ran with it. And just the most interesting thing is that they were down 5 with like 128 to go in the play-in, the first 4 against Michigan State. And I don't know what the odds were on that, but they weren't even probably at that point of time weeks ago. They weren't even supposed to win that game. And they made it all the way to the Final Four, which probably should have been playing Baylor in the championship. Houston and Baylor, another one of my bad bets where I thought Houston would stay close. Baylor ran them straight out of the gym from tip-off. And then pretty much the national championship, Baylor ran Gonzaga out the gym as well. Baylor just, I mean, I don't even know. I'm just looking here to see if anybody was close. I don't think they had anybody really give them a game. 1 versus 16. Then they played, but yeah, they blew everybody out. And they were the best team. They were clearly the best team. Villanova, I guess, was the closest, 9 or 11. They beat everybody by double digits. Just impressive. Baylor were just impressive. I can't really speak too much about the game today. I mean, they outmatched Gonzaga. Gonzaga had, it was basically Baylor 3 guys versus Gonzaga's 3 guys, and Baylor's 3 guys plus their bench guys. They were just better. They were better at every single position. I mean, Jalen Suggs matches up. It's like Jalen Suggs was like 1 versus 3. He was right there with Mitchell and Butler. But the next best players were all in Baylor, and then Timmy and Kispert, who's a lottery pick. We'll talk about that when we get closer to. I will definitely talk about the NBA draft. We'll get there when we get there. But he didn't play well in 86 to 70. This was another game that I thought was going over. Just to stay on the betting tip of this thing was 159, 160, and this thing was right there. And if I had bet the over, I swear I would have cried. But yeah, that was that. NCAA championships are just happy to have them. It was exciting. It was fun. Got one of the game of the ages. The women showed up and showed out. Shout out to all the, the collegiate athletes out there, and the rest of the sport. I think volleyball starts soon. I'm gonna try to watch some of that, and yeah, it's an exciting time for sports. Baseball just started. Not a huge baseball fan, but just good to see sports back. Especially after the pandemic and things of that nature. So, with that being said, actually, this just carries over very well into a sore topic for I guess for me, kind of, is amateurism. It just falling in the NCAA lap, or the lap of the previous topic, basically. And the Supreme Court has amateurism And I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but all the justices are questioning it. It's Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito. Or Clarence said, it just strikes me as odd the coach's salary are ballooning, and they're in the amateur ranks like the players. You say you played it. I'm not gonna go on and on with this. I'm gonna try to keep it short-winded here, but you say you pay kids to go to school, but education is not worth as much as you're making off of them, and the coaches don't do what the players do, but they get paid a substantial amount of money that's way more than what the players get for their education. So you can kind of just see that argument is ridiculous. And then Mr. Alito says, universities have programs that bring in billions of dollars, but the athletes themselves have a pretty hard life. They face training requirements, studying, hard classes, and only a tiny % of them make money in professional sports. So that, the justices are questioning, ACB, Amy Coney Barrett, she's, consumers love watching unpaid. NCAA is arguing that consumers love watching unpaid people play sports. She also wanted to know why the NCAA got to decide to pay for athletes. So she doesn't understand that argument that consumers love watching them. This is a moronic thing to say, I think. I mean, obviously we've seen the NCAA do some silly things just over this basketball tournament, and I'm sure as we see more and more tournaments and people watch them, NCAA will fumble the ball, because I think I don't know if they're necessarily corrupt, but they're greedy. They're greedy as ever. They're at the top of the food chain of greed, and you can tell that because they can figure this out if they really, really wanted to. But I think they're just trying to suck every dollar out of it as they can, because at some point you will have to pay the players. And argument I heard, I think a few years back, was that how do you pay people that swim and things of that nature? But that's not hard. It's just like anywhere, you go into Walmart or anything, everybody has a tier, and you could figure all those numbers out. I'm sure people on the swim team or the polo team or whatever know they don't make as money. Those Duke programs where no, they don't make as money as the basketball team. Like, we all know, we're not crazy. You can see the numbers, you can show the numbers, you can be transparent about this and make it work for everybody. But everybody deserves a piece of that pie. NCAA and those universities just can't be compiling it all and not giving people anything back. So it'll probably turn out to be where I don't think they want it to be a free-for-all where it becomes a place where players make hundreds of thousands of dollars or whatever the case may be. But I think the justices will be able to come to some kind of agreement with the NCAA that they have to fix this situation in an amicable or some real soon. They need to fix this issue very soon, and just kind of push them into giving them some kind of guidance or some constraints to work around. And then I think kind of just holding NCAA accountable for not only paying and taking care of their players, I think it will up their care and everything, from the sports to making sure people are taken care of, because they're going to still want to make money. I at least in my mind, I imagine they still will want to make money, so they're going to try to do more to make it better. Take care of the athletes, make the athletes, maybe perform better, or give them, better, school like preparation and things like that, where they can handle classes and practice and training and things of that nature. Just taking care of all of the collegiate athletes and even preparing them more to be professionals. Even if they go to be professional athletes or be actual professionals. I think it'll up the ante. I think they'll sharpen their game a little bit, because they'll have to be better, I said, in order to kind of get some of their profit margins that may or may not be etched away. So like I said, I don't want to go too far in it. I just was interested to touch on it because of the championships, and you just see, obviously, Turner Media's on it, ESPN's on the women's game, and they're just making a boatload of money, and they're not getting any of it. And Ed O'Bannon, he's a UCLA star. He kind of started this a while ago. I don't see the date here, but yeah, he, the basketball games, the football games, they had their likeness in it, and he couldn't get paid off of it. So it started with that, and then we're all starting to see, oh man, we're seeing the numbers, and we're seeing the audience that's drawn, and then players that you hear the stories. I was in college, I had friends, and it's tough. It's tough, and it's not fair in most instances. On the flip side of like the schools like Duke and North Carolina's and the big schools that get away with some stuff, Arizona's and things of that nature, that doesn't really count. Any under the table or illegal activity is exactly what it is. That doesn't matter. They're just trying to get kids to the school the best way they can, and those kids want to come to school and be able to eat and maybe drive a nice car. But that's another topic, another day. But that has nothing to do with legally paying the kids something reasonable that I think everybody would be schooling, and a little or decent amount of walking around money wouldn't hurt at all. So I'll be interested to see what comes of the Supreme Court, what kind of decision they make here. Like I said, it's hard to tell exactly what they're going to do as far as constraints of what they rule, but it definitely won't be that amateurism is allowed and kids. I highly doubt they say you can do this, you don't have to pay the kids, or thinking about paying the kids, or anything of that nature. It violates antitrust laws. I mean, that's what passed in the U.S. Court of Appeals Ninth Circuit, and violate antitrust laws. So I think that'll hold up in some instances. I just don't know how they'll word it and get the NCAA to do something, do the right thing. Boom. Halftime. Let me get out of there. Let me get out of the second quarter with a buzzer beater, because like I said, I talk about that all day long. So staying on that topic, sliding right through the halftime performance. We had somebody sing, whatever. I've always been a cereal guy. Most people, I think most people like cereal. Majority of people like cereal, but I came across a bracket that's on USA Today, and I'll talk about that. Let me talk about that second. Actually, it's a bracket formulated like like an NCAA bracket, but it doesn't have 16. It goes 1 through 8 instead of 1 to 16. It doesn't have 64. It has 32, right? Yeah, 32. 32 cereals, not 64. You get it. But this is an article from, this is guiltyeats.com. And it's top 10 cereal brands: Honey Nut Cheerios, Frosted Flakes, Raisin Bran, Captain Crunch, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Frosted Mini Wheats, Lucky Charms, Rice Krispie Treats, Apple Jacks, and Fruit Loops. I'm actually surprised Trix are not on here. But Honey Nut Cheerios and Frosted Flakes, I think, are interchangeable. I think that's probably 1 and 2. I think Raisin Bran's right there. Captain Crunch, Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I think, yeah, that's where it gets tough. I think Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Frosted Flakes, Honey Nut Cheerios are probably top 3-ish, but then Raisin Bran is top 3-ish. So that's why, yes, I think it does get tough. But growing up as a kid, Fruity Loops and Apple Jacks, and I know, Cookie Crunch, Lucky Charms. Lucky Charms is 7. Yeah, Cookie Crunch, I said. Fruity Pebbles. I had a lot of friends that loved Fruity Pebbles. Honeycombs. There was what was the I think it was a Count Dracula. I thought it was a Count Dracula cereal. There was, Pops, Kicks, Golden Grams. I wouldn't really say Corn Flakes or Wheaties. But yeah, that's where the top. I was just shocked. But it does say Tony the Tiger is the #1 most favorite cereal mascot, followed by Buzz the Bee, which is the honeycomb mascot, I believe, and Captain Horito Maglin Crunch. That's the Captain Crunch guy. But cereal has always been like, it's the thing, eat it in the morning, lunch, dinner, snack, is cereal. Now I think it's the funny thing now is like, what milk do you put in it? And as people kind of argue it, like, what's the milk that goes in cereal now? You do real milk or almond milk, and how does it change the flavor of the cereal? And it does affect it. It definitely does, especially just like almond milk with like vanilla, something like that. So yeah, but I'm not mad at Honey Nut Cheerios or Frosted Flakes being #1. This was from 6 articles like about 6 months ago, September or something of that nature. But as far as the bracket went, had Fruity Loops, Captain Crunch, Cheerios, and Cocoa Puffs. I think that's Cocoa Puffs. I really can't. They won't let me zoom in on it. I think that's Cocoa Puffs at #1. Those are the 4 #1s with Lucky Charms, Fruity Pebbles, Corn Flakes, Honey Nut Cheerios. That's #2 seeds. And then Fruity Loops beats Grape Nuts, and then it beats Shredded Wheat. Rice Krispie Treats beats Honeycombs, and then loses to Honey Bunches of Oats. So 3 versus 7. The top left is Rice Krispie versus Honey Nut Oats. Honey Nut Oats wins, then lose to Fruity Loops or Fruit Loops. I don't know why I keep saying Fruity Loops. Cheerios beats, I have no idea what that is. Life cereal loses to Mini. Golden Grams wins. So it's Fruity Pebbles versus Golden Grams. Fruity Pebbles wins. And Cheerios versus Mini Wheats. Mini Wheats beats Cheerios. I think Mini Wheats definitely beats Cheerios. I don't know how Cheerios is the #1. Honey Nut Cheerios makes sense. But on the other side, Honey Nut Cheerios loses to, I do not know what that is. I have no idea what that is. Honey Nut Cheerios loses to something that beat Apple Jacks. I don't know why Apple Jacks is a 6 seed over here. Oh yeah, Count Chocolate cereal lost to Raisin Bran, which was #4, which is crazy. But Captain Crunch wins out and eventually wins this bracket. It plays Fruity Loops. It actually Fruity Loops in a championship, and then Captain Crunch in its division or semifinal round. Lucky Charms makes it and loses to Captain Crunch. I think Lucky Charms beat Captain Crunch in my opinion, and then Lucky Charms and Cinnamon Toast Crunch is like, that's tough. But Fruity Loops and Mini Wheats, I do think Fruity Loops wins there. I don't see, and I think that's what I'm missing. I don't see Frosted Flakes, and I think Frosted Flakes is, oh yeah, that is Frosted Flakes. Frosted Flakes play Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and that Frosted Flakes is a number 3 seed. Once again, it's a bracket like, might have confused a bunch of people. This is like a bracket like the NCAA tournament. That's where I got this topic from. Sorry, I know I'm random as ever, but they have Frosted Flakes the number 3 seed, which is crazy because Cocoa Puffs was number 1. Frosted Flakes should have been a number 1 and not Cocoa Puffs. And then that would have changed this whole thing because Frosted Flakes would have played Cinnamon Toast Crunch anyway, and probably I think Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I guess you put French Toast Crunch in there with it too, but I think Cinnamon Toast Crunch is probably could be. I'm not arguing with Frosted Flakes. I'm not arguing with Frosted Flakes, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and Honey Nut Cheerios as number 1 cereals. Just not. I'm not mad at none of that at all. But it says 64% of the votes, the people who voted for this, took home the title of the best cereal, Cinnamon Toast Crunch. So it was unanimous. It wasn't really close, 64%. Everybody, I'm sure it's a bunch of little kids on this article, probably. Well, it's USA Today, so who knows? I would be interested to see the age dynamic that voted on this. But cereals, yeah. You're probably like, D, very random for third quarter replacing D. And I say, yeah, but cereal's delicious. And we all eat cereal. We've all loved cereal. It's all warmed our bellies on starving, hungry nights. And we went to sleep just feeling lovely. We've all done it. You've done it. All right, so folds up. This is a 4th quarter. And I'm going to take it out with something serious, I guess you can say. And this would be Biden's infrastructure plan. $2 trillion infrastructure and job package that's supposed to reshape the American economy. So, the planned centerpiece of Biden's economic agenda will need to pass Congress, where Republicans are lining up against it. Of course. And all right, so let's see. It would spend 174 billion, 28% transportation portion or electric vehicles. About 115 billion would pay for fixing roads and bridges chosen by those in need of repair. Another 85 billion is set aside for modernizing transit systems, backlog, Amtrak repairs, improvement, route expansions, airports, ports, and waterways. So 612 billion goes to transportation infrastructure, and I think that's where the argument is. It's $2 trillion. So that's about a third of it is transportation infrastructure. And I think most people think of infrastructure, you think of transportation, you think of the roads, bridges, things of that nature. And I guess that's, you give your opponent, I don't even want to say Republicans and Democrats because I'm just sick of it, but you give the people that's arguing against whatever you're trying to introduce, when you don't make that the majority of what you call infrastructure, then they're going to bark at it. So I can see that, but I guess there's arguments for the whole Amtrak situation, but they're never going to build a high-speed rail. So Amtrak already has a system that can transport people, and I think people will be okay to transport through train efficiently. And I think some people would enjoy it, especially if it's a good experience riding across country on a train or just to your destination instead of flying. I think some people would enjoy that, and I think that should be an option. I said, especially if it looks like no sign of no chance, no sign of a high speed rail of any sort. China has them. We're not getting them things. $25 billion go to miscellaneous projects of this $621 billion. That's also kind of a caveat to where you say things are going to go and where they actually go is always my biggest gripe. It was kind of like, saying people were going to get $2,000 checks when you put the bill out and then all of a sudden it starts to crumble under whatever pressure, and then it's no longer what you originally said it was, but it's still going to pass being the hacked version of what you originally said we were going to get. And that's my biggest gripe here, is that all these numbers to me kind of look pretty good. So once again, still, there's about 4 sections. And under this section, so the electric vehicles, including a network of 500,000 EV stations, that's 174 billion. EV is important. I don't know why anybody will argue that. And then you want to make sure you transfer to people that's working on regular cars that they can be able to fix and take care of, electrical cars. The modernizing bridges, highways, roads, main streets that need repair. 115 billion. And that's why I think too, opposition, people against your bill can argue is that that's the number that probably needs to go up. I would just randomly guess, and I would think that number probably should be in like a 400 billion, 500 billion range, because there's a lot of crumbling infrastructure. That's really where the big dollars should probably be going. Just my guess. 25 billion to upgrade airports. I think that could be something. I think the airline should be involved in that. I get it as federal, and but I think, taxing the airlines and working with the airlines in order to that's to be a universal thing in theory, because we are flying to different airports, across the world, across the country. I think everybody should be working together to make sure the airports are straight. That's not a hard thing to do there. It's not, thousands of them. Maybe it's thousands. No, it was 50 states. I don't know, but it's not that many airports where I think you can cobble together a nice team and make sure the airports stay on the up and up, and connect neighborhoods historically cut off by investment. That's kind of just the bit of spending. That's $20 billion to connect neighborhoods. So you figure that money probably never gets properly to where that needs to go. There's another $20 billion to improve road safety, which that should probably just be thrown in with the modernized bridges, highways, and roads. Once again, that should be a big giant number, I think. But once again, not expert here. I'm just spitballing. No, I'm just stating my opinion. Then inland waterways, coastal port, land ports of entry, and ferries. I'm cool with that. You got to take care of, especially the ports. That probably should be a little bit higher too. Quality of life at home was a $650 billion. The largest part of the plan focused on American homes. So this is actually more than the transportation infrastructure, 650 versus 621. This is to focus on American homes, school buildings, underground water infrastructure, and broadband expansion. So 101 billion is to include water infrastructure, include 45 billion to eliminate all lead pipes, and 56 billion to modernize American drinking water, wastewater, and stormwater systems. I'm not mad at that at all. You can't be. I don't know who could be mad at that. 100 billion to expand high-speed broadband. I don't know why in the world we would need $100 billion for that, but high-speed internet is just about as essential as lights, almost. So if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. Upgrade and build public schools, $100 billion. I don't think anybody should be angry at that. Retrofit more than 2 million homes and commercial property, that's $213 billion. I would like to see the details on that personally. That would it includes construction or rehabilitation of 500,000 homes for low and middle income owners. Sure. yeah, I just wonder how that works out, with people's homes and things of that nature. $40 billion for housing projects, $100 billion for the electric grid. So if you, like I said, you're doing it for $100 billion for, you're doing $100 billion for internet, you gotta do $100 billion for electric, and that's just VA hospitals and clinics, $18 billion. Ooh, why would you be mad at that? Clean energy and sustainability accelerator, that $27 billion, and it could be $1 billion. They're gonna be angry at that. Upgrade childcare facilities, community college infrastructure, that would be dope, and put $12 billion into that. Federal building modernization, Trump was talking about that. The federal building should look nicer. They just should. New workers in public land and water. I mean, it all makes sense, but like I say, you really just worry about when the money gets distributed, does it all get distributed properly? A lot of the price gouging starts going on. So contractors, they get the work, they up the price. So you really, when you really should spend $1 billion, you're spending $2 billion. Pot that contracting company's pocketing, a whole bunch for profit and really not getting the job done properly. So I mean, I just hope, it's a lot of money, and if it gets passed, I just hope the oversight, more money should be spent to make sure everything is done properly and not wasted. Because that would hurt. $400 billion for caregivers, for elderly and people with disability. It's just it's a market. This obviously, it's infrastructure. You gotta take care of people, and it's something that people don't want to do. And it's gonna be lots and lots of old people. People are getting older. It's hard to take care of themselves, and homes, community for elder disability. $400 billion is a lot, and once again, who gets that money? How they're treated? It's a lot in there. It just says caregivers for elderly and disabled. It's $400 billion. I could see 60% more than that just going to waste. It's going in people's pockets, and the same thing just happening over and over again. So hopefully that doesn't happen, and it's a good look. I think it's excellent to think about it, but how is the practicality of it? I don't know. And then $300 billion research, development, manufacture. About $300 billion plan would invest in manufacturing, including support for domestic production of technology and critical goods. Just workforce stuff, technology addressing the climate change, domestic manufacturing, clean and rural manufacturing, clean energy. 52 new office to monitor domestic industrial capacity, National Science Foundation for New Technology, dislocated workers program, HBCUs, R&Ds and HBCUs, $10 billion. And then, obviously people always want to know how it will be paid for. And that's obviously it's always number one thing. Biden wants to raise the corporate tax to 28%. I forgot, one of the Republicans said 25 is more like it, was 3%. Like, knock it off, dude. Biden also wants to increase the minimum tax on U.S. multinational corporations to 21%. The plan would eliminate a rule that allows U.S. companies to pay no taxes on the first 10% of returns when they locate investments in other countries. So, obviously, they want corporations and rich to pay for it. Whether that happens or not, it's still all about how it gets distributed and how it's actually used. And if $2 trillion, you obviously won't get, at least in my opinion, get the $2 trillion value out of it. Obviously, you will want more. You obviously the country deserves to get all the money, I think, out of it. But I just don't think the United States can afford to approve a $2 trillion, or if it's 1.5, 1.3, and then only get the value of half of it out. But you spend the full amount, but the value you actually get for it is half of it, or a third of it, or even 3/4 of it. Just don't think that would be good. But that's the key for Biden to task somebody with the more multiple organizations or people to make sure that it all goes where it's supposed to in the right way, in the right fashion, in the timely fashion. I think that's key. But big ups to him for just trying to get something out there and get the ball rolling on, whether you think it's infrastructure or just spending or however you look at it. But it does look like it is to try to make things better. So that is that for the fourth quarter. And oops. That was from last week. So if you saw that, go back last week where I talked about that. And it really could be OT again because the MLB moved the All-Star game out of Atlanta because of the Georgia voting laws. So it could be OT again. I really could talk about it again. It really should be talked about again, but I'm not. But it was shout out to the MLB for doing that. Hopefully Hollywood steps up and does something on those. You know, they have a lot of films being shot in Georgia, and they should speak up, and other things going on down there. That can't happen. Other states are proposing laws similar, and voting should be easy. Like I said last week, please go back and check out last week's video. It should be easy to vote, not harder. So, yeah, that's my time. I'm about to get up out of here. That was episode 9. Play some D. Felt like I played some D today. Got after it. And we talked about the NCAA. The championships were amazing. We talked about amateurism. That's in the Supreme Court. They're going to do something with that. Top cereals. And then that infrastructure bill. But yeah, please like the video for me. Like up. You know, turn on them post notifications and subscribe to the video. I'll be back with more episode 10. You know, I probably should change this layout, huh? Maybe soon. We moving forward. We pushing forward. Just getting on here and chopping it up is enough for me. So, thanks for watching. Stay safe. Wear your mask, social distance, and do what you need to do to be healthy. Cool. Until the next time, I holla.